Throughout the entire year, Mr. Shannon has been reminding me of the success of the Winnipeg Jets, as if anybody would not realize how good this season has been so far. We're with the general manager of the Jets, Kevin Cheveldayoff, is with us. If you look at your roster, there are changes, but not a lot of changes. The one thing we can point to is you got a different coach, and you got a coach who's not a young guy, who's won a lot of games in this year, in his career. Do you look at age as a factor with the coach at all?
Well, I don't know that age is a factor. We were looking for something pretty specific when we were decided to make a change and decided to bring a different staff in here. We were looking for somebody that was, firm but fair, someone that was going to hold players accountable because that's what the players wanted. We were going to have someone that had the experience and the knowledge and the wisdom. And you look at a guy like Bones, what a remarkable feat behind the bench for his 20, he's over 2,600 games now,
Right.
Behind the bench in the National Hockey League. And, you could probably go and say, well, he's seen it all, but yet he'll be the first to tell you that he's got to grow. He's got to learn, until the day that he wins a National Hockey League Stanley Cup championship, he's got to grow and get better. That's what he's telling the players. That's what he's imparting on them. And he's evolved as the game has evolved. And I think that's a testament to how he's been able to stay in it. So, when we got into the nitty gritty of what we were looking for, Bones checked a tremendous amount of boxes.
How much did you know of him, or how much did you have an affinity for him before you hired him, Kevin?
So not so much, him personally. Ryan Bowness, his son, actually worked on my staff. He became a pro scout with us and moved up the ranks in the pro scouting side of it, and then moved on to a different organization to become a head pro scout, and obviously now the assistant GM of Ottawa. But heck, everybody in the game knows Bones. There's not a guy that has, if you haven't played for him, something's wrong, so to speak, because he's pretty much coached or played with everyone. And but what you see is what you get. He comes as advertised. Him and his wife are just tremendous people. They create such a family atmosphere every single place that they've been, whatever position that he's been in. And that was the first and foremost thing that he wanted to create here. He wanted to create a family, and he's got that aura about him. And the guys, I think I read one thing where the guys say it's like it's like your grandfather. You don't want to disappoint him. He's someone that you want to play for. You want him to feel happy and good for you, so to speak. But he's not afraid to get in your face. He's not afraid to. One thing I really appreciated is his swiftness to deal with things. And it's not let's wait till Wednesday or Thursday or something. In his mind, like if the standard starts slipping on a Tuesday, it'll be gone by Friday. So you better get at it right now.
I wonder if you think players react differently to an older coach than a younger coach. I mean, I remember the days when Gary Green took over, I think in Washington. Yep. He was 24 years old, something like that?
Something like that.
Now, granted, that was 4 decades ago, but still, there's a young guy who had players who were older than him. And I wonder if that's a factor.
Well, I guess, every situation is going to be, specific to that situation. And I think that the players are looking for someone that communicates well, that is willing to listen to them, but, obviously has a plan and can communicate that plan to them. So whatever your respective age is at that regard, I think that's what players are looking for. And I think that's, that's what garners success. Like, let's face it, like in today's day and age, you have to communicate with the players. You have to be able to get them to relate to you. You can't force, square pegs into round holes. You have to, if they're not getting it, you have to find a way for them to understand it. And that's coaching.
Well, as you said, up high and you look down, do you see the difference in the coaching philosophies that your various coaches have had?
Yeah, well, we do play a different style, and that was one thing that we had sought out and talked about was, the style of play. We're still a team that's built on offensive players, but
Sure.
in order to have the ultimate success in this game, you have to have that defensive structure, and so that was something that was very important to us to have a structure that matched how we felt and thought that we needed to play, and one that had accountability attached to it, and Bones was very, very big on that.
I still remember the press conference when Paul left, and he talked about and I'm paraphrasing here. They've stopped listening to me. New voices are important as coaches, and as a manager, how do you measure, that communication skill between coaches and players, and is that the biggest difference? Because I don't want to be here negative ripping Paul or Dave Lowry or anybody who was there, because that's not fair. But that appears to be the obvious difference, is just the straight level of communication.
Well, yeah, certainly communication is key. There's no question. We do have a different approach. I think systematically we have a different approach. There's no question about that. I think just the approach to it, and we do have some different players. We have some younger players that are finding their way into the lineup, and let's face it, like in today's day and age, like you need younger players to come in September, because they have the biggest growth potential as you move on in the year, like their capacity to get better through the months, and to a point where you've made a distinct improvement on your team because of players' progression from September to March, April, and May, and that in a cap world, I think, is very, very paramount. I think you have to have enough players that can get from A to B within a season that help propel you to be a better team at that point in time. That's not taking it away from the 30-something crowd, because I think you need a great mixture of leadership. You need a lot of guys that that have that passion and that hunger and that knowledge of where to get to. But I think you need a good mix of younger players, and then you need that bench boss or that guy behind the bench. And hey, it's not all Bones. Like, we've got a really good staff here. We were fortunate to bring in Scott Arneal, Brad Lauer, and Marty Johnson. And they didn't, all of them didn't have like Lau and Bones coached together a little bit in Tampa, and obviously Arnie's got Jets 1.0 ties with Bones, but there was great synergy there, and the way the staff moves around, the way the staff actually coaches, and that it works well for us, because if you watch Bones, he does a lot of his his kind of one-on-one meetings with players. He'll do them before practice, on the ice after practice, grab a guy after a drill or something like that, and you can tell, because him and I will have talked throughout the day or different things. You say, I'm gonna speak to so and so today, I'm speaking to this guy today, and so you watch practice, and he gives them 5-10 minutes, and taps them on the shins after, and they go off on their way. But that's his approach, and it's, like I say, it's quick, it's fair, it's honest, and usually at the end leaves with both sides, I think, feeling that they were either heard or talked to what they needed to talk about.